Ida B. Chapter 11. Daddy had to sell part of the orchard and some of the farmland to pay Mama's hospital bills. One day in September, he took me out to the barn, sat me down with Rufus beside me, and told me about it. "It's 2 lots at the farthest end of the valley, Ida B," he said. I thought about that. "But that's part of the orchard. That's Alice and Harry and Bernice and Jacques Cousteau," I told him, in case he didn't realize who he was talking about. "Ida B," he said, like he was ready for me. "There's no discussing it. That's just how it has to be." "What are they going to do with the land?" I asked. "I suppose they'll build houses." "And what will they do with the trees?" "I suppose they'll cut them down." "Oh, no, Daddy, no." In less than a quarter of a second, I was crying and sobbing and yelling all at the same time. "Can't we sell something else?" "No, Ida B." "Can't we move the trees?" "No, Ida B." "Rufus and I will get jobs." "No, Ida B." Daddy's voice was getting louder and angrier too, and that's it. Now I have to admit that, at this point, I was not getting any calmer. And what about the brook and the mountain and the rest of the valley? They don't get to build there or play there or anything else, right? "Well," Daddy said, "the brook and the mountain and the rest of the valley won't be on their property. But I'd like us to be friendly and share what we have." "No, Daddy, just no," I yelled, and I crossed my arms and shook my head back and forth with my eyes closed, my pigtails snapping in the air like whips. I was hoping one of them might give Daddy a good sharp flick. Daddy just let me sit there like that for a while, and I started to feel pretty dizzy, but I wasn't going to let him see me stop. "Ida B, there's something else," he said. "Something else?" That stopped the flicking and flapping in no time flat. But what else could there possibly be? I had to give Lulu away? Mama was dying after all? I sat still with my eyes sticking out a couple of inches beyond the rest of my face. I was trying so hard to see what was going to come out of Daddy's mouth next. "I can't take care of the farm by myself and teach you, and your mama's too tired to do much of any of those things right now. So you're going to have to go back to school, starting on Monday. I know this is hard, Ida B," he went on, because I suppose he figured if he kept on talking, he could cut off the screaming and crying that was sure to be coming out of me. But it's how it's going to be. You have to learn, your mama has to rest and get better, and I have to take care of the farm." But this is how shocked I was. I didn't shout or holler or say a word. The insides of my head started spinning, and pretty soon everything around me was tilting and turning. I checked to see that my feet were still setting on the floor because it felt like I was falling down a hole that had opened up right underneath me. My stomach got queasy, and I was sure that my lunch was about to make a repeat appearance, when my brain remembered the one thing that might save me. "Mama's not going to let you do this," I said, trying to focus on a fuzzy, whirling Daddy. "Ida B, your mama agrees with me," he told me back. "This is what we need to do." And then everything went dark. My body was still sitting there. My eyes were wide open. But the real me that feels things and talks and makes plans and knows some things for absolute 100% sure had instantaneously shrunken and shriveled up and gone and hid away deep down inside me. I couldn't see anything except blackness or hear anything except a kind of ringing, and all I felt was emptiness everywhere around me. I don't know how long I sat there like that, but it felt like years and years of being alone, huddled up and hiding in the darkness. I heard Daddy calling my name, sounding like he was miles away. "Ida B," he was saying over and over, and even though I didn't want to hear him, I couldn't help myself. The more I listened, the louder Daddy got, till finally I peeked out from inside me, like I was just waking up. There he was, right in front of my face, saying my name and looking sad and scared. And then I was crying again, and Daddy standing there saying, "It's all right, Ida B, it'll be all right," was only making things worse instead of better. "Daddy," I finally got out between one sob and another. "Yes, Ida B. Please don't send me back to school." "Ida B, you have to go." "But Daddy, I don't need to go to school," I pleaded. I'll teach myself. I'll use the books and I'll teach myself. I promise I was willing to memorize every boring fact about Canada or any nation he wanted in the northern or southern hemispheres. You need to be with other kids instead of moping around here all day." Daddy was losing any sign of sadness or sympathy. His voice was getting louder and harder, and he was not budging. "I don't want other kids. I just want you and Mama to be here. Please, Daddy, please." Well, I'll confess to you that at this point, I was not just begging with my words. I was on my knees on the floor with my hands clenched and lifted up to him, the way people look in pictures when they're pleading for mercy. But this Daddy was merciless. "Ida B, that's enough," he shouted, and the sound of his voice filled the whole barn. As soon as Daddy started yelling, my voice jumped back down my throat and my whole body froze up. Rufus was so scared he shot up like a bolt of lightning had run right through him. He went tearing out of the barn and was gone before Daddy's words were done bouncing off the walls. Even Daddy looked surprised. His eyes got big and then he closed them tight. He put his hands to his forehead and left them there for a minute, then dragged them across his head till they grabbed each other out the back of it. He let out a big breath, like he'd been holding it in forever, and the barn was still. With his eyes closed and his head bent down, Daddy told the floor, "Mama's sick and I'm busy, and you're going to school on Monday, and that's how it's going to be." Then he turned around, walked out of the barn, and went back to the fields like nothing had happened. Chapter 12 tomorrow.